everybody, you're listening to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter team and publishers of BigBlendMagazines.com, which includes GardenGossipMagazine.com, because we like to gossip, and we like gardening, and we especially like it when we can eat our garden.
Alrighty then.
Well, our next guest is Don Rosenberg, and he's all about having an instant garden that you can eat. He's a master gardener and the author of No Green Thumb Required, Organic Family Gardening Made Easy, and it really teaches everybody in your family. I don't care if you think you have a green thumb or a brown thumb, this makes it easy. You can go right on Amazon.com to get the Kindle version or ebook. You can also go to his website, InstantOrganicGarden.com. Not only does he have his book there, but he's also got great beds. You've got the beds, garden beds I'm talking about. They're breathable fabric, so you can have it's like you can just pop up your own veggie garden wherever you are. And he just ships it in the mail. It's something easy. Your roots of your plants can breathe, and you too can have an instant organic garden. So check it out. Go to InstantOrganicGarden.com. Don, how's it going?
Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Well, we're all about having instant gardens that we can eat.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I don't think any of us have that much time these days. And so when you think about a veggie garden, sometimes we go, oh, gosh, now we're going to have to figure out how to do this. And, we were chatting with you last month about the raised garden beds, and I think that's such a huge solution. But then it's like, okay, we got these easy beds. They come in the mail. It works. We just fill them with the right soil. But what about when we start planting? I remember, Nancy, when we, bringing seedlings into the house to try and nurse them along.
Oh, I'm never doing that again.
So, before we even start talking about seeds, we have to really know about when to plant them, right?
Oh, definitely, and that's something I can help people with on my website too. And you really want to plant your spring crops, not in the spring, but you want to harvest them in the spring. And so that's about 60 days prior to your last freeze date. And you can look that up online. Again, I can help you with that too. You plant your summer garden, not in the summer, but in the spring, so you can harvest them in the summer, and that would be just a little bit past your last frost date. So those 2 dates in Charlotte, which is sort of the middle of the country, up and down, you plant your spring crops on February 15th and your summer crops on April 15th. And what I recommend is planting them directly in the ground instead of going through that torture of trying to deal with the Jiffy trays and the grow mats and the grow lights and so on. It's really kind of a nightmare, and you have to set them outside to harden them off. And I always, either they drop dead from a fungus grown for 2 weeks, or they roast in the sun because I forgot to take them in. It's really a nightmare. Plants do better when you plant the seeds outdoors where they're going to be at the right date.
That is so true because, I did that whole thing. I was experimenting, and I'm really into it, and I like it. But then it's so disappointing because my little seedlings got all spindly, and I was like, oh, rotate them to the light. And then you take them outside, and they just went bye-bye. I'm like, oh, what happened?
But I think this is the part where people get a little nervous about growing.
Yeah.
And then if they've missed their date to plant, like to me, I look at winter time, December, January, even, early February, depending on where you are, as like shopping. Let's look at what we're going to grow to eat in our veggie garden. It's kind of like the planning part, depending on where you live again. But, I think sometimes we miss that time, and we're going to go, okay, we're going to run to to our garden center or nursery and get transplants. And then it's like, wait a minute, the transplants aren't going to be organic, so therefore we might be eating, a strung-out crazy green bean, that we grew. So this can be scary for a lot of us because really a lot of us want to grow our own vegetables because then we know where they came from, that they're healthy, we don't have the toxins in them and in the plants and the vegetables for our kids. So that's a lot of us why we're doing it, especially for families to get them involved. So what do we do when it comes to transplants? Because I think then people get nervous and then they say, okay, I'm going to do it. And then it's the nerves.
Better than season.
I can help you relax a little bit, Lisa, because it really isn't.
I don't want to turn into a giant green bean, okay?
Right, I want you to relax. It's really okay. there's really very little that's in the seeds themselves that is going to cause any harm to anybody. It's the way a plant is grown where you start thinking about the pesticides you use on the plant, the synthetic fertilizers that you use. Those are what makes a plant not organic. So focusing on trying to buy organic seeds, it's a good idea. If you can find them, that's great. It supports, farmers who are growing these seeds specifically for you, but they're going to be more expensive. You're going to get fewer seeds per package, and so it really isn't necessary. I only use 3 crops as transplants, and those are the 3 big summer crops: tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. I buy those as transplants because I really only need 1 or 2 of each plant. I don't need 20 or 50 or 100 of a certain kind of tomato plant, so there's really no need for me to try to start them myself, and we certainly don't want to try to start those outside when it's so cold. But the little bit of soil that you have in your tomato plant, if it's not even organic, is not going to cause any harm whatsoever. Just grow it in regular soil, good healthy soil, use organic fertilizers, avoid pesticides, and you're in really, really good shape. So it really simplifies things.
So, Don, when you buy your seeds, do you ever buy those seeds that are covered with fungicides and pesticides? Because I've seen those on the market.
The only seed that you can really buy that has a fungicide on it is corn, and it'll come out of the package pink, and that's really just to keep it from rotting in the ground from people who try to plant the corn too early. And there's really no advantage to planting corn early because if you plant it early when it's really cold out and you just keep the seed from rotting, it's going to grow so slowly that the seeds planted at the proper time will catch up and even surpass these slow-growing early plants. So you really don't need a fungicide on your corn. Sometimes you can't even get the corn without it. And frankly, I'm not a 100%er. I'm a practical person, and there's maybe there's a pesticide on some seed. I've never seen that, but I really wouldn't worry about fungicides on corn. The fungicide would dissipate in a week. So you get yourself out there and plant the garden, and don't worry as much about the seeds.
Okay, and you're going to get the seeds, but we've got a great article that we're going to be featuring, especially for the new year, in the GardenGossipMagazine.com. You talk about what a GMO seed is and hybridized seeds, and it's interesting because Nancy and I this year have spent some time with growers, like Briggs Plant Propagators, where we actually saw them do tissue culture, and we filmed the whole process. And it's something that we really found we had to explain on the radio, and that's why we're actually doing the video too with them. And so people don't think that, wait a minute, we're creating these blueberries from tissue culture. No, it's not genetically modified. You're not going to come out with 2 heads if you eat a blueberry. So I think we worry about that with our seeds too.
Yeah, and there's the good news is that, and I say this in the article. There's only a few crops that are even commercially available as genetically modified seeds, and I don't remember the whole list offhand, but it's corn and soybeans and rice, and but the stuff that we're going to be growing in our gardens, the peas and the squash and the spinach and the carrots, none of those are using genetically modified seeds, and there really is a bit of concern about them. I wouldn't say a lot. There's some of the things that they're doing to corn that are just scary, and they're actually building either pesticides or pesticide resistance into the corn, and that's really scary. And the reason is that people just don't know what long-term exposure, either to feed crops for animals or to people, is going to be from eating these, this corn that has come from these genetically modified plants. You just really don't know what might happen, and maybe 15, 20 years ago there'll be some odd vitamin deficiency that's caused, and there won't be any other regular seeds left.
And
so that's
you're also
one of the
looking
concerns
at
that we have.
The soil, our topsoil in the country, and then what happens in the rivers and streams and things like that. You know what we're doing with our tour. Going to all the national parks, and one thing we go and you see, wait a minute, there's a huge agricultural community outside of a national park, and you want them to be more organic farms. It's just kind of automatic. You want it to be, wait a minute, this is cleaner living, because it kind of reflects each other. And I think when you have a national park, like when we were in Three Rivers outside of the Sequoia National Park, everybody there, Dawn, has their own vegetable garden. They have a co-op too for things like if you want corn and stuff like that.
Because some people have
people
more
are living.
area.
Yeah, they have fruit trees. I mean, people are living off of the land pretty much. It's truly cool, And you see these communities go in and start to realize, just like you talk about, it's so important to grow our own food. But at the same time, let's do it so it's fun. And, when I was looking on your article, you were talking about heirloom seeds, and I'm seeing a lot of people really, this has become a serious thing. This is something fun, but we're also keeping our history around by using these heirloom seeds.
Well, definitely. I'm skipping back to what you were saying about the runoff. That's a big deal, and I'm all for dealing with that kind of issue. The runoff is caused by the pesticides, and is caused by the synthetic fertilizers that wash through the soil into the water table. And that causes all sorts of problems in the rivers and the streams, causing excess growth of algae, and it kills fish. It does all sorts of horrible things. And so we definitely want to be very conscious of the way we use synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. And the other thing is just as easy and sometimes less expensive now to use good organic methods to grow your plants, to use pest management methods to simply avoid the pests instead of having to let them land and then kill everything. So definitely dealing with fertilizers and pesticides is the number one way to deal with those issues relating to the parks. Now, in terms of hybrid and heirloom seeds, that is the thing that really confuses people. And I talk about that in the article, that hybrid seeds are basically two other plants that are combined together. The seeds that those plants produce are then breed this hybrid plant. And sometimes there's no way to naturally breed two plants together. The only way to do it is a hybrid. And so there are very good characteristics that you can get. You can get disease resistance, you can get drought resistance, you can get pest resistance, you can get better harvests, better fruits, better appearance, better color through hybrids. The problem is that the hybrid seeds, the seeds that come from the hybrid plants, if you were to save them and then use them next year, they're not going to perform well. They're not going to be the same plant. And so that means that you have to keep going back to the supplier of the seeds year after year to get these special seeds. And that would be okay, but if there's something big happens in the economy or the world or there's some sort of disaster or whatever, and those companies aren't producing those seeds anymore, then you're just out of luck. And so
Don, I think you're kind of saying things that have already been happening. It really, when you talk about, disasters and, the economy and things like that, things are happening. So we kind of have to look that way a little bit sometimes.
Definitely. And so learning how to have a garden in your backyard and learning how to grow plants and learning how to save the seeds, there's almost a different process for many different classes of plants. So saving tomato seeds is different from saving cucumber seeds, which is different from saving lettuce seeds or carrots. And so if you can learn how to select non-hybrid plants, and this is where we were talking about heirloom seeds, if you can select non-hybrid plants and save those seeds, those will reliably produce the same plants year after year, and that is a good thing.
So, okay, I get that. Now, I see what you're saying. So if you take a hybrid seed in the next year, you use those seeds, you're going to get something totally, you're going to go back to the original, maybe.
Not really the strong, unique plant.
You're going to go back to what nature said, this is what I am right here.
Yeah.
You're never really sure what you're going to get, and that's okay. Now, there are some crops that the seeds are sterile, and if your only source of corn is going to be these seeds, and then you try to plant the corn that results and it doesn't grow, again, if there's a disaster and there's nobody around to make these seeds for you, and you don't have any of the other seeds, and you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Well, these are just, I think heirlooms are cool. You know, a friend of ours, Lori, you know, we actually, I got all into her garden. She has raised gardens all over her property, and she just does it because she has gazillions of bunnies and all kinds of things running around on her ranch. But here she is with all this acreage, but she chooses to do raised beds because she works her butt off all day, you know, comes home and she just goes out and literally she does the snip, here's my salad, you know, and she has the most amazing colored chard, like you would believe.
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
Everything is heirloom that she does. And the plants look, even though she goes out and cuts and trims and eats them, you know, it's kind of like they keep growing, they're strong. It's like your Swiss chard leaf it ain't doing any kind of wilting whatsoever. It is so vibrant and so strong that I'm really thinking that these seeds are like the super seeds, man, in a good way.
Well, the real trick to that, again, I use silver beet Swiss chard, and it comes in 5 neon colors. So your garden can be attractive and ornamental as well as productive and tasty. What's really happening there is that she's picking what she's eating 5 minutes or 10 minutes before she eats it, and it's going to be at the peak of its flavor. It's going to be at the peak of its nutritional value. A lot of the vegetables that we get at the grocery store were picked 5, 10, 15 days ago, and they might last 10, 12 days. So that's why your lettuce, when you get it from the store, you put it in your refrigerator for 3 or 4 days, and it's already starting to fall apart. Well, that's just continuing a process that's been going on for the last 2 weeks. I've noticed that when I take my freshly harvested lettuce and I put it in the refrigerator, it lasts a long time. Now, the real trick is to not harvest an entire lettuce plant, but as you all were saying, is to harvest them a leaf at a time and keep the plants growing. So instead of getting a one-day harvest, you're getting a 2-month harvest, and that's really exciting.
And that saves time, it saves money, and it's colorful, and I dig it.
Pick what you need as you need.
So, Dawn, what is your ultimate favorite veggie that you grow?
Well, my ultimate favorite vegetable is peas, and excuse me, the peas. If you've never eaten peas fresh from the garden, you really haven't lived. It's like eating.
Then you're going to make faces like Nancy makes when she hears the word pea. She doesn't like peas.
I think canned peas should be taken off the shelves forever.
Yeah, well, my mother, and she used to boil the broccoli. And when it came out of the pot, it was sort of gray-green, and it sort of went like that. And it was just nasty stuff. It was kind of mushy. And so when I have my broccoli, I pull it out. I might steam it for 3 minutes, and it comes out of the most beautiful color green that you can imagine. And
with some red peppers and
tender. It's tasty, crispy. I'm getting hungry just talking about it. I had some broccoli for dinner tonight.
Well, you see, it's the season, you know, and I think that's the thing. We've got all these vegetables. Broccoli grows pretty much through the winter, doesn't it, depending on where you're based?
Yeah, definitely, and it really is important that you figure out where you are in the country relative to your frost dates. We were talking about that earlier. One of the things about peas, you know, I install gardens in the Charlotte area, and I've been doing this for like 6 years now, and I've met the nicest families, and one of them, early on, like one of my very first customers had this beautiful family. The little boy name is Matthew. And I asked his mom, where's Matthew today? She says, he's out in the garden eating peas. And he would go into the garden, he would pull off a plump, pea pod, and he'd unzip it, and he would be popping those peas in his mouth, because the peas that are fresh like that really do have nothing but sugar in them. Even if you buy peas at the farmer's market that were picked yesterday, they still don't have that fresh picked flavor. So that's why I like peas. That's my favorite vegetable.
Yeah, and I know that you can cook, Don, because you just go in your garden and here.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. We don't even think about cooking vegetables anymore. We think about preparing them, just washing them off, chopping them up, making a salad, eating them fresh. That's even better than cooking them.
Right on, right on.
I like that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again, everyone. You can learn more about becoming an instant organic gardener. I mean, this is a really good way of keeping your family healthy. We talk about what's going on with healthcare. Well, prevention is probably the best thing we can all do. You've got a great book, Dawn. It is No Green Thumb Required, Organic Family Gardening Made Easy. And, of course, the breathable fabric raised beds we were talking about earlier really is a solution. You know, I know that we tried some garden beds out here that didn't have that breathable fabric, and we got aphids and all kinds of things like that.
We got a good crop of mushrooms.
Yeah, we did. They weren't the type I enjoy, though. Ha! No, kidding.
It was kind of like, oh, look at that, mushrooms in Arizona.
No, I know. But everybody go to instantorganicgarden.com, and you can read his articles and listen to past interviews on GardenGossipMagazine.com. Thank you so much, Dawn.
It's always great to speak to you, ladies. Take care.
You too. Happy eating.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I was going to say happy gardening, but he just wants to eat.